The day I saw her child's trembling hand brush against the floor, I knew nothing in my life had prepared me for what came next. I was just a janitor. One of those humans who swept corridors of glass towers on Altara Station. A hub of commerce orbiting a dying star, far from Earth, far from anyone who cared about a man like me. But that morning the air shimmered differently. The fluorescent hum of the station's maintenance lights felt like static against the unknown. And that's when I saw her. The alien billionaire. She moved like gravity itself bent for her. All towering elegance and luminous skin that shifted color with every subtle emotion. But she wasn't the focus. Her child was. A small figure confined to a hovering mobility shell. A subtle vibration in the soft silver of the hallways as it navigated the polished floors. And it was messy. Or maybe fragile. I couldn't tell at first. The first thing I did was instinct. The child's tiny hand was smeared with some sticky residue from the hall's recent maintenance, and a tear welled in its oversized eyes that reflected starlight like liquid metal. I knelt, swiping gently with a rag I'd never been allowed to touch someone with, and whispered, There. We'll get it cleaned." A sound cut through the corridor, low and resonant. A warning? And I looked up. The billionaire was watching me. Not with anger. Not with curiosity. But with that impossible stillness that made you feel every secret she carried. My stomach turned. Most humans would have run. But I didn't. Because I saw something in the child's eyes, trust. And maybe that was enough to override every rational warning in my body. I finished cleaning, carefully adjusting the small appendages on the mobility shell to stabilize the child. And then she spoke, her voice a melody that vibrated in the spine rather than the ears. "You did that for him?" she asked. I nodded, feeling like a criminal who had just stolen a treasure. Except the treasure was just a life. "What do humans know about care?" she murmured, almost to herself. But her eyes were on me now, piercing, searching. "And yet, you know more than my entire staff." That was only the beginning. For days afterward, I avoided the main observation deck, but the billionaire, known across systems as Lady Jaril, found me anyway. It wasn't through security protocols. She didn't need them. Somehow she just appeared. "You have a choice," she said bluntly. "To leave this station, return to insignificance, or to stay." "Stay?" I asked, swallowing hard. "Do what?" "To teach him," she said, and for a moment I thought she meant the child. But her gaze was deeper, heavier than the vacuum outside the station windows. "To teach him what it means to be alive." Her child had a rare neurological disorder, a genetic anomaly among the Xylan species that had left him barely able to move or speak. Everyone else had abandoned hope, leaving him caged in technology that mimicked life but never truly lived. But I, human janitor nothing, had bridged that gap in 5 minutes. And that shocked her. The first week was terrifying. The child's shell was intricate, full of sensors I couldn't begin to understand, and Lady Jaril's expectations were cinematic. She watched every interaction, her luminous eyes shifting from critique to fascination in microseconds. And yet, she did not intervene. "Humans learn from emotion," she said one night, voice echoing over the observation deck. "Logic alone cannot teach him. He must feel." I thought of my own childhood on Earth, cleaning floors in my father's workshop, learning lessons that no one else taught me, lessons about patience, about quiet dignity. I realized the irony. A janitor teaching a billionaire's son what life meant. And yet, every time the child smiled, tiny, fleeting, like a star bursting briefly in darkness, it was worth every tremor of fear in my bones. But then came the revelation. On the 3rd week, while adjusting the child's motor shell, a hidden interface lit up unexpectedly. It showed me a simulation. Every moment the child had lived, recorded, analyzed by artificial intelligence that his mother had built to predict his every need. But the AI was failing. Its logic couldn't replace human touch, human improvisation. That was why I mattered. And that was why Lady Jaril's attention shifted from annoyance to curiosity. "What do humans see that machines cannot?" she asked. I didn't answer. I only continued. But the question burned in the air, lingering like static electricity. Then came the turning point. A station-wide alarm screamed. The outer hull had been breached, pirates, smugglers, unknown entities exploiting the dying star's gravitational distortions. Panic ensued. Everyone fled or locked themselves away in secured quarters. And yet, Lady Jaril's child remained in the center of the chaos, his shell stabilizers failing. I had seconds. Literally seconds. I grabbed the child, adjusting the failing systems with my hands, improvising in ways no protocol manual could dictate. Lady Jaril appeared, her expression unreadable as she watched me work. Then she acted. Not to command or control but to protect. Together, human and alien, we moved through corridors collapsing under pressure, dodging falling debris, keeping a life alive that the station itself seemed intent on destroying. And in that moment I understood something profound. She didn't see me as a janitor anymore. She saw the value of a human touch, the raw unpredictability of empathy, the courage that rises in ordinary hearts when faced with extraordinary stakes. When the chaos subsided, when emergency teams arrived to secure the hull breach, Lady Jaril said one word. Stay. Not as a command, as a declaration. The weeks after were surreal. My duties expanded beyond mops and brooms to the intricate care of her child. I learned to operate the mobility shell, to anticipate subtle emotional cues in a species I had only known from textbooks. And Lady Jaril began to change too, slightly, almost imperceptibly. Her sharp, calculating edges softened when she looked at her child, and sometimes when she looked at me. Then came the final test. A rare celestial storm approached the station, threatening to knock out all life support. Evacuation protocols were in place, but Lady Jaril refused to move without the child, and without me. We worked together, the three of us in a narrow command module, improvising solutions, relying on each other in ways that defied logic. And when the storm hit, we survived. Not because of technology, not because of brute force, but because trust and care, something the Xylan had nearly lost, had been restored. Afterward, as the storm cleared and the station hummed with the renewed rhythm of life, Lady Jaril approached me. Her gaze, usually unreadable, was soft, almost human. You saved him, she said quietly. And you saved me. I shook my head. I didn't save you. You saved yourself. You just let me help. She laughed then, a low melodic sound that echoed in the observation deck like a forgotten symphony. And for the first time I understood her. Not as a billionaire, not as an alien, but as a mother who had learned that life cannot be calculated, cannot be controlled, and certainly cannot be caged. Months passed. I became more than a janitor. I became a presence in her world, a bridge between species, a living proof that empathy and courage exist even in the most unlikely humans. And her child, he thrived. Every day a little more mobile, a little more expressive, every tiny triumph a monument to the quiet power of care. The final moment came quietly, almost like a whisper. I was adjusting the child's mobility shell when Lady Jaril touched my shoulder. You changed everything, she said. Not because you wanted to, because you were human. And I realized that was the truth of it. In a galaxy obsessed with power, wealth, and precision, it was human imperfection, the instinct to care, the courage to act without calculation, that had rewritten our destiny. The child reached out his small hand, gripping mine with surprising strength. Lady Jaril watched, eyes glistening, and I understood then that I wasn't just a janitor. I was family. And as we stood there, the three of us framed against the panoramic swirl of the dying star outside, I knew one thing with certainty. Heroism isn't born from titles or money. It's born from a willingness to touch lives when no one else will. The galaxy could have ignored us. It could have written us off as insignificant. But in that moment we were everything. And what I saw next changed everything.